your thoughts on this birthright citizenship?
Well, what the minority of Thomas, Alito, Gorsuch, and to a certain extent Kavanaugh, he had a qualified dissent, was that they are originalist. And they said if you look at the 14th Amendment, it came in the aftermath of the Civil War and the increasing pacification of Native American tribes. So, what are we going to do with people who were traditionally not considered citizens of the United States? And so we said, if you were a former slave and your parents were here, then you were a citizen, i.e., you didn't just come in um, on your own without being born here. And the same thing is true of Native Americans. A court case sometimes later reinterpreted that as anybody born here could be a citizen, but it emphasized the original wording of the amendment that says, and not subject to the jurisdiction of another country. But in fact, everybody knows that if you come in here and you're a foreign national, right, you are subject to the jurisdiction of another country. I'm not. What do I mean by that? I mean, if Mexico has a extradition or a hold on somebody, and they come in here and they come and say to us, "We're going to extradite him back to Mexico as a Mexican national," we say, "Okay." If Mexico says Victor is going to be extradited, I'm not subject to their jurisdiction. And so, to simplify things, every single person knows three things about this. Number one, it was never the intent of the drafters of the 14th Amendment to give automatic birthright citizenship. Number two, everyone knows it is widely abused and it's not sustainable. People are flying in from China in their third trimester, having a baby, and flying back with the baby, so that that baby, who might not know English, anything about the United States, at any time in his or her life, if things get bad in China, can fly over here or can come over here and sponsor their children. Same is true of south of the border. So everybody knows it's an unsustainable, crazy idea that has greenlighted a very pernicious habit of coming here and in your third. And then three, everybody knows, while there are a number of nations uh, that technically allow it, usually they require both parents. We don't, to be citizens. I mean, to be citizens, or at least. So if you come in the United States and you're born on this, you know, most countries, I think the majority, require either one parent or two to be a citizen. And if you're born here, yeah, I think if you're born in France, you can only be a French citizen if one of your parents is French. Some require two, but it's not the norm. It's not that it doesn't exist anywhere else, but it's not the norm for a person to be born here with to two foreign nationals, or born here in the United States or anywhere in any country. It's not the norm. A lot of people say, well, a lot of Latin American countries are doing it, but yes, but it's still not the norm. So just to recap, everybody knows it was not the intent of the drafters of the 14th Amendment to have this anchor baby malady we have. Number two, we know it's not sustainable because we're handing out citizenship to people we have no idea who they are. They have no affinity with the United States. The parents don't, they can leave. Number three, most countries, not all, but most countries understand that and don't do it. So then the question is, why in a conservative court with a 6-3 majority would you have two justices defect? Amy Coney Barrett, and John Roberts. That, I think, is a political decision. I think that they understand that this is right up with the Dobbs case as one of the most controversial cases that would radically change things immediately. It would tell the dreamers, for example, not all of the 20 million, but it would say to some dreamers who are now in their 30s or 40s, you came when you were 2, and so you're not a citizen, but you were born here. And that's you're not a citizen. You think you're a citizen. You're not. I shouldn't say dreamers. I should say a lot of immigrants right now as we're talking have parents who are either illegal or legal aliens, and they will be born immediately. And now they're going to be told, you're not a citizen. You have no right to be here unless you apply for a green card or something. So I think the court, in the case of abortion, they could outsource it to the states so they could get the heat off them. They can just say, you know what, we're not banning or we're not approving abortion. Under our federalist system, we're allowing regional control. They can't with this. It's going to be a fundamental change. And we have 53 million immigrants here, and we have a million coming every year, and the Democratic Party would go ballistic. So I'm just conjecturing. I have no evidence, but I think that in their way of looking at saving the court's reputation, not allowing it to be biased perception wise, they were going to rule in favor of the left on this issue, and they were going to rule in favor on the right of the trans issue and say that states, locales, regions organizations have a perfect right to say if you're not a biological female, you're not going to compete in female sports. And that was controversial. The problem with all of this is that's not the purpose of the Supreme Court, to adjudicate what's politically feasible or tolerable, number one. Number two, Kagan, Ketanji Brown, and Sotomayor, they don't defect. They're lockstep. They would be dead in Democratic circles. They wouldn't be able to go speak. The left socialists, the Democratic dash socialist dash communists now, they're intolerant. They would not, if Sotomayor or Kagan voted for this, all their speaking invitations would be withdrawn. They would be personae non grata. And so they stay that way. They're enforced by the Democrats enforce cohesiveness and unanimity. We don't on the conservative side. So we get these constant defections. And we're always told that they're to save the court or the reputation of the Supreme Court or not to be partisan. But this is not a partisan issue. This is something that affects the well-being of the United States. Then they criticized Trump, I think Kavanaugh did, but others on the left, and said that he had issued a executive order stopping it, which precipitated the lawsuit. And he can't do that. And they cited evidence where you have constitutional edicts in the Constitution or constitutional by way of an amendment that cannot be overturned by a presidential order. They need an act of Congress, or maybe even an act of amending, bringing in another amendment, which is about impossible because you require 3/4 of the state legislatures, and I think it's 2/3 of the Congress. But what they're missing here, I think, is when they are saying, if you want to change the law, you have to bring either an amendment or maybe an act of Congress. And the conservatives are saying, we don't want to change the law. Not at all. We want you to obey what is written in the law. The law says that if you were born in the United States and you're subject to the jurisdiction of another country, you're not going to be a citizen. And everybody knows that if you come across the southern border from Venezuela and you're here and Mr. Chavez or Mr. Maduro or whoever the government is says, I want you extradited because you're a citizen. That will be adjudicated. Nobody will doubt that. And so what I'm getting at is the conservatives were saying, well, we don't need an amendment. We just need an act of Congress to enforce the law or something like that. The other thing is very quickly, it wasn't too handled by conservatives. All I think they should have said, uh, we just want reciprocity. If China allows somebody to be born in China, to be an automatic citizen of the People's Republic, okay, maybe we'll extend the same. What they're saying is we have been taken. We're taken on tariffs. We're taking on technological appropriation. We're taking on all of these issues, and we're taking on birthright citizenship. So any country that does not allow birthright citizenship, whose people come over here and take advantage of our allowance, shouldn't do that. If they did something like that, they broadcast that fact, I think they would have got a lot more support.